mountain
bookmarks,
peak.
but I don't know if you guys like purple.
I would love a bookmark, actually. All right, Christina, come on in. All right, why don't you start by introducing yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Christina Angelos and I'm a professional artist. I'm a painter, educator, philosopher, teacher, philanthropist, above many things. But yeah, I love everything I do.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's me in a nutshell.
Great. If you could describe yourself in like 3 different words, what would they be?
So I would say I'm very optimistic. I love to dream and think big and not have a script or follow any rules or direction. And then I also am very ambitious. I love chasing my dreams and pursuing my passions. And then I would say too, I'm also very tenacious. Like I'm willing to take risks. I'm willing to go outside the box and like think in different ways and, get told no a lot of the times and, just be brave and yeah, just doing the thing.
Awesome. So let's start about like your upbringing with art. In particular, can you tell me about your first experiences with art? Like, were you kind of always drawn to painting, or were there like other creative outlets that like eventually led to you?
So I guess in childhood, I went to like a traditional, school that we all were brought up in, and I was forced to take every class, and I just felt like the most like myself in the art classes, and my art teachers really like were encouraging, and that was the first time where I was ever good at something or got recognized for being good. Because like my art teacher in like 2nd grade, like lifted up my piece of art because I made a mistake. I was so scared of being like wrong when I was a child. I think all of us too were indoctrinated that there's only one right answer. Everyone has to, the right answer is A or B. Like there's no in between. And so in art class too, I was very scared to like do something different, or like I would get ridiculed, for like making something wrong or making a mistake. But in that art class, I was just like doing something like really courageous and different. I didn't follow the directions. And I made this like giant sunflower like across the whole page. And everyone else's looked like the teacher's, but mine was different. Mine was like, like this different composition. And the teacher held it up in front of the class and said, "This is good. Like, this is good art." And she showed the whole entire class. And that was like the first moment where I was like, oh, like it's okay to like go outside the box. It's okay to be crazy. It's okay to like trust myself. It's okay to like not follow the directions and to go my own creative route. And that's actually the first time I was praised for it. And so now I feel like it's my life mission to kind of show people and educate people and kind of be the advocate for this like creative act of rebellion, and for you to really like force yourself out of this box that society's created for us and like take risks and do your own thing and really like, like be tenacious and like try something new, because, like that's how innovation happens, and you will be praised for it. And, that's kind of the message that I want to spread.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
And from that point on throughout your childhood, like how would you describe your artistic endeavors?
Yeah, so I think I was that like scared and like kind of wanting to fit in the box kind of followed me, I think, throughout my educational years. And when I got to high school, I really thrived in glass art. So I went to New Trier High School in Winnetka, and I took this glass art class just like for a fun elective. My mom was like, "Go take this art class, like whatever." And I was like, okay, like sure. I ended up spending every waking moment, every lunch period after school, I was in the studio and I was blowing glass, and I would make these glass pendants, and I would like sell them to my friends and give them to everyone, and everyone started to recognize me for these pendants of my art. And it was something different, and I just really focused on like the repetition and getting good at it. I loved it. And then when it came time for college, I kind of like had to let that go because I obviously graduated and I didn't have access to it. And then I like went to be a teacher because that was like the safe job. And then I got into painting, and it's interesting how like my paintings kind of flowed into like this glass sort of flowiness that, I don't know if you've ever seen glass heated up, but it's like this very lucid liquid material. It's really interesting to work with. And so it's just, fun to see like the connection between that experience with my art now, But yeah, I mean, it wasn't a direct path. It was a lot of, ups and downs, a lot of how, like, the reason why I came back to art was because I really needed it at a time where I was at my lowest. I had a friend like commit suicide at one time. I like broke up with like one of my like closest friends of like 8 years. I was deciding on where to go to college, and like investing in my education felt really, really scary, like spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. I was enrolled in Loyola for literally a week and like dropped out. So all of these things were happening at the same time, and it was a lot for me. It was like a lot of things happening, and then family dynamics and other things like all mixed into this pot. I really struggled, and I was like, what do I do? And like, I want to be happy, I want to be fulfilled, but I also don't want to get into debt. I don't want to live this life where I'm a indentured servant to my student loans. I didn't have any parents to fund my schooling or scholarships or so I was like, there was a lot of happening. And during that time of all that like kind of turmoil, grief, I really turned to art, and I really turned to doodling. And even in my college career, when I was just being a teacher, I really just was like doodling for fun. I was going on Pinterest and finding little like watercolor paintings. If you go scroll down all the way on my Instagram page, you'll see like these silly little watercolors. And that's how my Instagram page started, was because I was in this hole and I needed a baby step to get myself out of it and get like to a better mental state and to figure out my path and my direction. And art was a tool that I used to help me like inch my way out of it. And so slowly over time, by doing repeatedly painting, just like, I'm telling you, like literally like the dumbest little like flowers, or like dumb flowers. I love flowers, but like, like little doodles, like over time, it really brought me to this place of healing. And then I started taking art classes in college, and then I really fell in love with like my professor and like the philosophies and like all of the different aspects of art history and the culture, and learning about what art really is. It really stuck with me, and I just kept posting, I just kept creating, I just kept following my intuition and following my heart and just painting what made me feel good. And that's how I landed on water, is because in college, my professors were like, all right, you gotta like pick something to like create. And I was always like, I didn't know what to make. I was like, I don't know what to make. Like, I feel like this is a very common thing with like beginner artists. It's like, you don't know what to make. It's just like, okay, like art block, it's like, what do I make? And I just really turned to my own memories that brought me the most joy. And for me, that was experiencing Greece and being in Greece and experiencing all the sensuality that the nature of Greece has to offer. And so, even when I was it was the middle of winter in January, like it is now, in my college classes, I would look through my photographs on my phone, and I would just look at these photos of Greece, and I would feel like I was transported back in time. And even though like it's negative degrees outside here in Chicago and it's kind of gloomy and depressing and kind of, like sad, I felt, I'm sure you guys have all felt that like inner like stress or turmoil, or, in the middle of the winter months, it's hard because you're inside, you're not experiencing nature. So I would look at these photos and I felt this relief. I felt this, I felt like I was back there. I felt like my body could feel like the sun on my skin again, and I could feel the ocean touching me. And so I just started drawing it, and I would draw it over and over and over again. I would do every assignment my professors would assign, like whatever the prompt, I would somehow weave it back to a photograph I had taken in Greece. Doorways, plants, the water, sunsets, landscapes. And then eventually, it was actually in a figure drawing class, my professor said, draw anything relating to the human experience. And it could be a figure, it could be really anything. And he said, get abstract with it. And that's where I thought about my human experience, standing in the water, being there, and what that mystical sensation felt like. Because, I think about how we live in this life, and it's like there's some things that are visible and invisible, and there's this whole other dimension and spiritual reality that we don't really get to see with our eyes. And so I was just drawing in this way that was very abstract, thinking about like time and space and energies and, you know, different realities and like what our soul is experiencing, not just what our eyes are seeing, but what our heart is like feeling. And so I really was able to get it out on the page in this like very abstract, doodly way.
Yeah.
And it's just like evolved from there. And then the paintings that you see are all evolutions from those drawings. So,
Yeah.
long-winded answer.
No, yeah, no, and you can definitely tell through your work that your Greek heritage and like your time like in the islands, it like very much inspires that. How important were those childhood experiences of visiting Greece and being there and like experiencing that tranquility? How important was that with influencing your work?
I would say extremely important. So a little backstory too about that. Your subconscious is formed between the ages 1 and 7. And so when I was 3 years old, I went to Greece and I was there. And I remember, you know, throughout my childhood, looking back at these photographs of me, and I was in the water and like I was being held by like my family. So I was like this little baby, this little 3-year-old that everyone's kissing and hugging and loving and taking with them everywhere and taking them in the water to swim with them. Like there was just like this, you know, feeling of love, and the water had a lot to do with it, because at that age, like I was just like, that was probably my first time ever getting in the ocean, you know, at 3 years old. So, and I would see photographs of myself there, and you know, it's interesting how even as an adult, like you remember these little moments from your childhood and how it kind of arcs over. And now, I mean, obviously this is years of reflecting that I'm able to draw this connection, but it was really meaningful for me to go back to Greece, because my whole life after that trip when I was 3, I didn't return until I was like 18. And so throughout those years, I would hear stories of like my friends and like how they loved it and how they loved going every year and visiting their grandparents. And that experience, my friends would always talk about it. And I grew up here in Chicago, super involved. I learned Greek. I had a private tutor for many years. I spoke the language well. I sang in the choir at church. I know like how to chant Byzantine music. You know, I grew up very, very immersed in the culture. I know how to Greek dance. I could go off, you know. I could go on and on about like how deeply rooted I was here in Chicago with these Greek roots, and how much I longed to experience this mystical land of Greece, you know. So that was kind of like the childhood. And then once I got to, you know, 18, I was able to go for the first time, and it was really special. It was like this really amazing moment, because I was like, oh my God, like it's like all the senses. Like when you're in Greece, it's like the food's different, it tastes better, like the people there just like love you so much, and like the ocean, the sunsets, like the vibrancy, like the sounds, like it's very sensual. Like you feel it with, you know, all of your senses, and it's very like immersive. And me as a creative person, and I think all of us, were really stimulated by colors. And Greece is so colorful that it made me so excited and happy, and I would photograph everything. I would like literally photograph everything. And so I was just in love with that experience, and then those photographs ended up becoming the inspiration for all the artwork that you guys see.
Yeah, so it was those experiences that really kind of helped you tap into your spirituality in a lot of ways as well. So I kind of want to get into the spirituality that inspires your paintings as well. And how would you say that spirituality like plays in like shaping your passion for art? Like
Yeah.
when you're making a piece.
Oh my gosh, I love talking about spirituality, because for me, it's like having this personal friendship and relationship with God. I think from a young age, like I grew up praying a lot and going to church a lot, you know, but as a teenager, you kind of drift away and you think your parents are crazy, and you know, religion is whatever it is. And so I kind of found myself very distant from my spiritual life, from my connection with God. And I think that earlier part where I was telling you guys about the little rabbit hole I was in, that was the part I was the most furthest away from God. And through art, you know, yes, the art is a tool, but the reason why it's a tool is because it allows your mind to be silent. And through that silence, you're able to really like listen to God coming into your heart and really like whispering things that you need to hear. And, you know, it's like that silence and that tranquility that comes with like the meditative doodle practice that I became obsessed with. You know, it's really, you know, it's enjoying the process of putting the pen to paper, you know, watching it move, really disconnecting from reality. You know, it's like you're in this other world. It's like you're transported into this portal where it's just nothing else exists except you, your soul, and like God. And so it's like this direct form of prayer. And so every painting, every drawing, like everything that I create, it's done in silence. I never listen to music. Everyone always asks me that, like, do you listen to music when you paint? And no, I don't. I always like, I'm just in this like very solitude-ish, quiet, peaceful, prayerful state. And that's, I think, what creates the art. It's not really me. It's just like my hands and like God working through me.
Yeah.
Which I think is beautiful. And I think a lot of artists can relate to this phenomenon. I don't think I'm coming up with this, you know, myself.
No, awesome. So at what point did you commit to making art a full-time career in a business? Like, is there a particular moment that like you're like, all right, this is what I'm doing? Like, explain that like to me. Like, at what point did this become like a full-time thing for you?
Yeah, that's really interesting. So I've been an Instagram girl since it started, since like Instagram became a platform. I was on it as a child, literally like a middle schooler. So I've always loved Instagram. I love the graphics of it. You know, I just like became infatuated, you know, by the visuals of the platform. And like I said, I would just watercolor for fun, and I would post it. Make something, post it. Make something, post it. It was just my friends and my family that were like, oh, like this is kind of fun and cool that you're trying this and doing it for a hobby. And so I kept doing it. I kept posting it just for my own self, just as like a visual journal. I just posted on Instagram. And then, you know, Instagram started to evolve, and I started to see other artists in the world making a living off of their work. And I think that was a very pivotal moment for me to see other people doing it, to see other artists actually making a living, selling their pieces, you know, following their dreams, having a studio. You know, I got to see it on a grand scale of like, and then the algorithm keeps feeding it to you, and you're like, oh my God, like this is a real thing. And I think a combination of me just loving what I was doing, you know, being obsessed and, you know, with the meditative, prayerful act of creating, and then in tandem with sharing it. And then I was starting to get momentum and traction with family and friends. And I had a solo exhibition my senior year of college. And my friend came to that show, and she said, how much do you want for that painting? I'll bet you, my mom, like her mom was a painter, and she's like, I'll bet you we could sell it for like $3,000. And I was like, what? I was like, that's insane. Like, no way. And she's like, yes. She's like, there's a world out there. Like, that painting is really beautiful. And kind of got my wheels turning. And then I had my first commission. Someone actually paid me to make a custom piece. And then she paid me again to make another custom piece. And then, you know, I would post it and share it. And then, you know, word of mouth. And the network started to grow. And I just kept posting reels and sharing things. And, you know, it's been expanding slowly, and it's been beautiful. But I guess like along the journey, I was a teacher too for a few years. And I really wanted to focus on being an entrepreneur. I'm obsessed with business. I'm obsessed with learning about business and marketing. And so it just made sense for me to just go off and do it.
Awesome. Yeah, because your work definitely does focus on kind of bringing calm and peace into people's lives. So my question is how do you balance running a business with staying true to that mission? So like,
Ooh,
yeah.
It's a tough question. And I have to be completely transparent and honest with you guys that it's not always easy. It's like very challenging. You could ask Angela, I probably cry every other night, you know, because it's just, I think too on Instagram, you see this glorified image of like this successful artist, but no one really gets to see the behind the scenes of like what it takes and the passion and the focus that it requires of you. And, you know, as an entrepreneur, you have so many different avenues you can go in. Like, you have like all these different directions. And so the main challenge, I think, in finding peace in that is staying focused on my goal and on my mission. And I find that the moments where I don't feel peace and I do get stressed out or I do feel anxious or chaotic or whatever is when I derail from my original focused path and I try experimenting or doing this or that or that or the other, you know, but the real focus is painting in my studio. And when I stay dedicated and focused to that practice and I trust in the daily practice, I trust, you know, in that painting is going to take me to where I want to go. It's not the, you know, this or that or whatever. It's painting, period. And staying really focused and like eye on the prize and like eyes on my own paper, you know, staying in my own lane, especially with Instagram too and juggling this digital world. It's like I'm constantly on my phone and I use it for marketing, so I'm seeing a lot. So it's like that discipline it takes to stay focused and not get distracted is what brings me the most peace, is like that time in my studio and making it a daily practice every single day, even if it's a drawing some days or if it's 5 hours of painting other days. It's just like making something every single day.
Yeah. Do you have any like rituals or practices that you instill like either before or during the painting process?
Mm-hmm. So I have this daily drawing practice that I do. It's like I did it once and now I'm doing it again. It started with a little paper, then I filled it up and then I used a paper like this big and I filled it up. And now I'm working on a bigger paper. And my goal is every day for even 5 minutes before I start, I get myself into this meditative flow state, like prayerful. I have to kind of detox my dopamine levels too from like my phone and get into this headspace of, you know, like I talked about, it's like you have to get into this state of peace and it takes a little time to like get over that hump. So I do these drawings and I doodle a little bit and I'm trying to fill the page and make the page full. And it's titled Yamatos, and it's like this page full of little doodles.
And what does that translate to in Greek? Because I know.
Yeah, the word Yamatos means full. And so the goal is to fill the page, but also to feel that fullness inside of yourself. And so that's my starting practice. And then I'll transition to, I like to look at a lot of photos of Greece and then get that vibe, the energy, the emotion, what I'm feeling, get it inside of me, like kind of refresh my memory through that visual, and then I'll start painting.
Yeah. So if an individual comes to you for an original piece, explain that process into like how you cater that piece for that individual.
Yeah, so this is like my favorite thing to do ever. I love making custom pieces for people because that's really like my main goal, is to bring your memories, like my clients' memories, into their own home. And so when you come to collaborate with me, it's really a synchrony. It's both of us working together to create a masterpiece for your house. And I love to use the client's photos, like your photographs from your memories. I listen to your stories. I want to hear about what you really memorized from your experience of the water. Is it the sunset? Is it the colors? Is it the light reflecting off the surface of the water? Is it the textures? Like, what is it that really gets your blood flowing? And then I integrate, you know, your story, your life experiences, your photographs, your memories of Greece. If it's a certain island or a certain beach or a certain place, you know, we'll title it after that beach or after that place. And we'll weave in, I've even woven in like my clients' like initials like secretly into one of the paintings. So it's really customized. It's really a special experience, and I love doing them because then, you know, they get to live forever in the home, and that's really what the main goal is.
Yeah, and so you did mention before our interview that you also are into art education as well.
Mm-hmm.
So what aspects of your work and your creative process do you try to teach to other individuals?
Yeah, so my main philosophy is teaching the daily practice. And so, like I said, like I start my daily practice with that Yamatos piece. I just doodle. And the doodles are actually the key to creating your own personal style. Because when you doodle, you have no expectations, you're free flowing, your mind is resting, and your soul is calm, and you're just trusting your hand. It's like a body connection. You're trusting your hand to just free float around the page. And it's through that process of trusting your physical body to put lines on a piece of paper. That's how everything starts. And so when I'm teaching art and I'm teaching you how to find your own style and how to find your voice and how to, express yourself, honestly, through lines and shapes and colors, because that's all I do. It's lines, shapes, and colors arranged in a way that is expressing my story. And so that's exactly what I teach my students through your doodles, and it's every single day. And I have a curriculum, and it's 45 days straight where you're prompted, and the videos are 5 minutes a day. So no excuses that you're too busy, because it's 5 minutes every single day. And you carve out that sacred 5 minutes, and you take the time to doodle in silence on a piece of paper this big. Because when you fill a little piece of paper, you're actually triggering the reward system in your brain, and you're releasing dopamine and like the pleasure system. And so when you fill up the little square, you get this sense of satisfaction in yourself, and you want to do it again. And so the idea is that day in and day out, it becomes this addiction. And it's a positive addiction. It's a good addiction. It's a addiction that brings you peace and joy. And so habitually, every day, you keep doing it and you keep doing it because it's addicting, and you keep getting better, and you're seeing the progress, and you're filling up the square, that over time, you're able to develop your own unique style. And I also have my students go through different moments in their life, drawing food that they've had. We all take pictures of our food, draw it. We all take pictures of flowers, draw the flower. We all take pictures of the landscape, draw the landscape. We take pictures of other people, try drawing a person. Every artist, every human, we all have a different pull for different things. Architecture, so many different subjects. And so I have my students walk through each and every different type of subject matter that you can make art about, because the goal is for you not to replicate me or replicate someone else, but to know the rules. And I also teach that, like the foundations of art, elements of art, principles of design, line, shapes, colors, contrast, balance, emphasis, like all those words that you should know as an artist. I teach it in a fun way through the daily drawing practice. And, through that investigation, through looking at your images, you're able to develop your own personal style of art at the end of that 45 days.
Yeah.
So that's Abstract Art Academy.
No, absolutely. You said that beautifully.
Thanks.
As an artist, and also as a spiritual leader, what legacy do you hope to leave?
I think that's a really special question. And, I hope that when I'm not here anymore, like my art is able to show others that they are capable of creating. And I really hope that like the education that I pour out into the world in my lifetime trickles into generations to come, because right now we're working through a revolution. I don't know if you guys are noticing, but it's like the digital revolution. People are becoming, the education system is becoming obsolete. We used to be in the Industrial Revolution, now we're in the digital revolution. And so it's like the whole world is shifting. Everything is changing. Everything is, moving digital. And in this transition, my goal is to be one of the pioneers that are showing, young students, young people, that you still have to be in the physical world. You still have to exist. You still have to create authentically from your heart and your soul, from your human experiences, from your core. But at the same time, you also have the potential and the tools and the technology to excel. And so I think too, like this new age brings up so much potential for so many of us, because we have these platforms to share our work for free. We have these places to, talk and post it and build communities and, grow. And so my goal too is to build a community of, creatives, and be an educator and be one of these pioneers into this next stage of the world, and be that new form of education, because education is shifting online. It's no longer in the classroom. It's no longer A is correct, B is correct. It's this creative revolution of, self-expression. And so I just hope that I can be remembered.
Yeah, I think you have a very beautiful approach to not only how you create art, but also how you teach others to also delve into that respective field as well. So I think that's very admirable.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell us about like any like avenues, like if a person wanted to like receive a piece of work, like what are some avenues that they could take to reach out to you?
Yeah, so I have a beautiful website. It's ChristinaAngelosStudios.com, and I offer prints and originals. And then you can also reach out to me through there to do a custom commission painting. And then recently, one of my good friends, Christine Gebauer, she opened Celestial Art Curation in downtown Hinsdale. It's right in the heart of the downtown. And it's such a beautiful gallery, and she's created such an amazing space for artists to connect, as well as collectors and art enthusiasts, and so many amazing people. So you can go to celestialartcuration.com and you can see my works available through them. And then you could come visit the gallery in person and see the art in real life. I also sometimes I do scheduled appointments at my own house, and I use my house as a showroom. So, and then I also come to you. I also can come to your house, and we can, measure your walls together and kind of come up with the ideas together in your space and think about the colors and, send me pictures. We could do Zoom calls. I've done Zoom calls in person, so even if you're like across the country, we can still meet and have that conversation through a video call and look at the space together and, kind of curate what you want in your home and curate the feeling together. So lots of different ways.
Awesome. And one of the last thing, you did mention that you also have an event coming up, if you wanted to elaborate on that as well.
Yes. So March 1st, the entire month of March, I'm hosting a solo exhibition at Celestial Art Curation Gallery in Hinsdale, and I'm actually curating a show that is a compilation of women artists throughout the United States and Australia, so highlighting Greek immigrant women, and I'm having women ship their work from California, Australia, New York, Florida, Virginia, and we're all getting together in one room. And again, this is where the beauty of Instagram comes to life. I've found all these artists, and I've been curating this show mentally in my mind for, a while now. And it's just beautiful now that we have the space and I have the capacity to curate such an amazing exhibition. And everyone is creating a work of art focused on their own human experience of creating spiritual joy in their daily life, and our connection between that experience of Greece and our experience here in the States, and how we live our lives, being influenced by Greek culture, Greek heritage, Greek spirituality, all the things, like how we weave that into our daily life. And so all the artwork is going to be highlighting those experiences. We have so many beautiful poetry being written, photography, painting, ceramics. There's going to be a really amazing range of artwork being shown, and you guys are all invited to come to the opening reception. We're doing a panel discussion on March 1st from 3 to 5 p.m., and then we're doing an opening night cocktail reception from 5 to 8. So again, that's in Hinsdale, and it'll be at Celestial Art Curation. So I hope you guys all attend.
Awesome. Well, I just wanted to conclude by saying that your art and your approach to it, it's extremely inspiring, and it's holistic, it's pure, you're doing a lot of really great work.
Thank you, Evan, for having me. This was
Thank
so fun.
Thank you for coming. This was actually
great. I'm so glad
great.
we got to chat.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.